Hey, and welcome to the premiere episode of the Boston Beat. I'm your host, Wesley Days. Now, the Boston Beat highlights people and places that make Boston, Boston. Today, we are going to focus on two nonprofits in the greater Boston area, the SoWa Artist Guild, a collection of artists across different mediums, and Get Girls Going, a professional incubator preparing young Black women to become entrepreneurs. We are now joined by Debby Krim, who's a photographer, painter, and jewelry maker. She and Steven Silver helped form the SoWa Artist Guild over a decade ago. Can you talk to me about how did this Artist Guild come to be? Because I know there's so many different artists, especially in the city of Boston. You know, there's different, types of art and different things that, creatives like to do. So talk to me about how everything came to be.
So the building has been inhabited. 450 Harrison Ave is the building where we're all located. And artists have been part of 450 Harrison Ave since before it was, they were like, oh gosh, the mind blank here. They were just squatters in the building. Like 30 years ago, artists were there along with drug addicts and prostitutes and some businesses, and a lot of people were squatters in the building. And at some point, I don't know, I'm not good at retelling the exact history, but GTI Properties came in and they sort of, I believe they had some sort of an arrangement with the city that if they rented to artists, they would get a tax break. So it became official that artists would inhabit or be at 450 Harrison Ave. And from there it just grew. So around probably like 2004 or so, this gentleman that you'll see in the interview, Steven Silver, he decided that it would be great to organize the artists within the building, because a lot of us didn't even know each other. You would know your neighbor and you might know somebody else on your floor,
Right.
but you certainly didn't know people on all three floors. So he thought it would be a good idea to get the artists together and to combine resources, basically so that we could advertise and also to have a way of just in general promoting this concept. So by making a guild, he made it that the artists would be in communication with each other and then put a message of, here we are, out to the world. And that's its humble beginnings.
And that's something that I kind of want to build on. And it's so fitting that we're here at Emerson College, where it's kind of the home of the creatives in some ways, because there's so many people who are trying to create different art. And so it seems that the Guild is kind of like a community almost. It's a group of people coming together really to show their work and get feedback. That's really cool. So I want to talk about you specifically. How has this guild, this community in the SoWa Artist Guild, assisted you as an artist?
Well, Steve and I have basically been running the guild for, I don't know how many years, but many, many, many years, well over a decade. And now Audrey's part of that. So it puts me in a different position than somebody who's just a member of the guild, for example, because it's made it so that I know almost everybody at 450 Harrison Ave. And that's been amazing because that building is full of incredible people. So I feel like I'm one of the lucky ones who gets to be familiar with each of the artists in there. And it's not all of the artists. It's not mandatory that people at 450 Harrison Ave join the guild. It's if you choose. The only criteria to be in the guild is you have to be an artist or an artisan, and you have to have a studio at 450 Harrison Ave. And beyond that, we don't have, we don't jury to get in or anything like that. But so for me personally, it's been a very social experience, because there is this camaraderie between people. We may not be like-minded in so many different ways, but we share a passion for creating, which is what you have at Emerson as well.
Absolutely.
With your fellow students, right?
Absolutely.
One person might be interested in a career in in the movies, and another person might be in public speaking or in being a commentator or whatever it is. But you share that passion about delivering a message or whatever it is. And that's the same thing for us, is we share that passion for creating art. And the art varies from hyper realistic to completely abstract, from, painting, jewelry, sculpture. It runs the gamut. We have weavers, we have photographers. So we really have a wide range of not only media, but we also have a wide range of styles.
Talking about the Guild, and I know we talked about kind of the past and how it came to be, but looking ahead, where do you see the Guild in the next coming years? Do you see it growing? How big do you see it growing? Where would you like to see it go? So talk to me about the future of the SoWa Artist Guild.
Okay, so, well, since it's based at 450 Harrison Ave, it can never grow beyond the number of artists that are at 450 Harrison Ave. So we don't have any goals of it being larger than it is. It's, when we first started and it was just in the teens, we were content that we could pay our bills. And now if people want to join it, we welcome them with open arms. But if they're not interested, that's okay too. We have, I think there's 91 members currently, which is close to our largest. I think we were just before the pandemic, we were 93, but there's been a lot of transition. So we'll probably get back up to that number when the people who left, those that have replaced them, will probably join the Guild. So the future of the Guild, I always question that because Steve and I are older. I'm 63 and Steve is older.
Well, you don't look a day before 29, I'm here to tell you.
Yeah,
you
thanks.
Look good.
That's a smart thing to say. You're going to keep your job. Exactly. I like to say, I know I don't look 63, I look 62.
Exactly. That's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it. And so, kind of moving, talking about the Artist Guild, but even talking about art in general, since the start of this pandemic, a lot of people have been trying to find ways to keep themselves going, picking up their mental health, making sure that they're in check and in a proper place to keep their spirits high. How has the Guild, or even just art, helped you during this, hectic time, unprecedented time? What has art meant to you during the pandemic?
So you're talking about me personally?
I'm talking about you personally, yes.
Well, it's been very strange. I've always used the excuse of time as to why I don't paint more, why I don't oil paint more. I've said it for years. If I had time, I would paint more. Then suddenly, if you could say we were gifted with this gift of like excessive amounts of time, and I didn't paint. I did at the very beginning out of guilt, not out of desire. And then I stopped painting and I thought, so I guess I've been a liar for all these years. All these years I've been telling myself, this is what I would do if I had the time. Here I had it, and I didn't do that. And I've talked to a lot of people that have told a similar story. And, I think what I've personally evaluated, and only recently with a conversation with another artist who came into my studio, is that painting is a very solo activity. You're really all alone when you're painting. And COVID was a very isolating activity. And so I think painting, while I was feeling already isolated, wasn't the right match for me, if that makes sense to you.
It does.
And so what was the right match is something that I never do, which I think a lot of people were doing during COVID, is I caught up on 30 years of television.
I can definitely attest to that. I was deep into Scandal this time when I had all my free time. It's the only thing I could keep my eyes on.
Yeah, so it's not something that I'm necessarily proud of, but I've been kind of a workaholic my whole life. And so it was this big head spin of, this is a different person I'm not familiar with than I'm familiar with. But, you kind of go with it. And now I'm getting back into being an artist again. I did continue to make jewelry at the beginning, but then I stopped because it was just all getting tarnished. I work in sterling silver, and it was just all tarnishing. And I was like, just stop and take a pause on what you've spent your whole life developing. And it's okay, it's okay to take a
Absolutely.
pause and
Absolutely. And
whatever.
it's so interesting that you say take a pause, and you have to be in the right space to create art, because when you just do it out of guilt, or out of just, I don't know, just trying to keep yourself going, sometimes you lose your purpose. You lose the art's purpose, or the creative piece's purpose. So I completely see your point. So going back to SoWa, I know it's a non-profit, and so you're uniting studio artists, and you're trying to make sure that this project keeps going. Tell me how people, maybe who are not in SoWa, tell me, how can they get involved? How can they help? Can they donate? What ways do you guys accept donations? And where can we find a link or a place where we can give you some of our money?
Okay, so the best way to help is to buy art from the artists at SoWa. So you can go to SoWaArtist.com. It's SOWA. I think it's, let me make sure I've got this right, because wouldn't that be shameful if I gave you the wrong website address? SoWa Artist, plural, SoWaArtists.com. And you can view a lot of the different artists' work, or you can come in. We're opening for First Fridays. A lot of us are opening on Sundays. So come into the events. The best way to support artists is to find artists that you love and buy their work. That's really like the best. We don't take donations of anything, because we are, it's really just supporting the individual artist, and do it because it's something that you love. It's going to fit in your life because it works, whether it's, buying a painting from a painter, or buying jewelry that suits your style from a jeweler, or whether you're buying these beautiful weavings. The third floor has this amazing weaving studio with 5 artists in there. So whether you're buying their pillows or their bags or whatever it is, just supporting the artists is the absolute best thing we could ask for. And as to the future so the Guild will continue going on, because for years it felt like there weren't a lot of young people coming into 450 Harrison Ave. But of late, I've been paying a lot of attention to the fact that we've got a lot of new people coming in that are younger, and that's the future. So, and Audrey Markoff, who has joined Steve and myself with running the Guild, she's the future. And there's others also that I know will join. If they stay on the building long enough and have the same passion for it, they'll be the future. I see it continuing on beyond Steve and my lifetime for sure. I feel good about that. So as long as that building remains an artist building, which I think it will, Mario, who is the head of GTI, which is the property company that owns the property, this is what they want. He wants this. I believe he truly loves that this is an artist community, emulating what it's like in Italy. And that's his legacy. So I feel confident that this will go on a long time.
Debby Krim, thank you so much for joining the Boston Beat. I really appreciate it. Now we get to see the hustle and bustle of 450 Harrison Ave. Our reporter Danielle Shojai met with artists at SoWa during their First Fridays event.
We're here at SoWa, the Art and Design District of Boston, where we're talking to the artists that belong to the SoWa Artist Guild about the tight-knit community that they have here and how it's stayed strong throughout the hard times.
It's really unbelievable. I feel so lucky to be here, because there's a real camaraderie with all of us here. We're friends, we support each other in terms of our work.
Last year, the SoWa Artist Guild would expect roughly 1,000 visitors for their First Friday event. But post-COVID-19, events like this look a lot different.
Now, let's see, how many of you are here tonight? So I would say that now we're lucky if we get like 30 people, maybe 40 people.
But these dark times haven't prevented the artists here at the Guild from carrying on with their passion.
This is afterlife for me, retired life, so it's fun. It's great to know people are hanging your work in their homes, and it makes you feel really good. It gives you a very good reinforcement that you're doing something that people enjoy. And that is very motivating to continue.
The community in the Guild has stuck together despite all of the challenges.
I know it might sound trite to say it's like we're a family, but it really, really is. There's a lot of mutual support, mutual admiration. We all pull together because we want the community to become even more widely known and successful.
We share ideas, we share materials, we share tools,
we share looms,
we share snacks.
And there's plenty of hope for the future, for the artists, and for SoWa.
We have really been missing that interaction with the community. Fortunately, I know it's just a matter of time now before it comes back.
SoWa, I believe in a year and a half from now, SoWa is going to be the strongest it's ever been.
For the Boston Beat, I'm Danielle Sojai.
Danielle, thank you so much. Now we're going to go to Amrit Panu to learn a little bit more about influential women in Boston.
In honor of Women's History Month, we wanted to highlight one of Boston's finest, Kip Tiernan. She founded Rosie's Place in 1974. It was the first women's shelter in the United States, located right here in Boston. Born in 1926, Kip Tiernan moved to Boston in her early 20s as an aspiring writer. Tiernan wasn't only a successful writer, she made her mark as a social activist as well. She founded Rosie's Place to combat the increasing number of women without proper services in the area. She provided women in need food, shelter, and companionship. Kip Tiernan also founded the Boston Food Bank in 1976, and she didn't stop there. Tiernan co-founded the Poor People's United Fund in 1980, the fund that helped run grassroots community groups involved with issues of homelessness, hunger, and access to justice. She also co-founded Community Works in 1982, the Boston's Women Fund in 1984, and Healthcare for the Homeless in 1987. In 1990, Tiernan established the Ethical Policy Institute, a multidisciplinary community of people who participated in community activism, economics, and political analysis. During this time, she also taught as an adjunct professor at University of Massachusetts and lectured at various schools, churches, and conferences. Tiernan continued publishing both local and national articles. Tiernan served the community until the end of her life. During the recession in 2008, she spoke at a Greater Boston Food Bank event to rally employees. During her speech, she said, quote, "Compassion is not a smiley face, but a discipline that we will carry with us all the days of our lives." Tiernan believed we could all change the world if we, quote, "take the risk of being human." She continued to live by these words until her death in 2011.
Wow, what a legacy. Thank you so much, Amrit. Now, on the topic of women's history, after the break, we're going to see how one woman is helping Black teenage girls make their ideas come to life. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to the Boston Beat. Now we take a look into Get Girls Going, a nonprofit in Dorchester that serves a resource for young Black women trying to get their foot into the door of the business world. Now, our reporter, Drew Ashone, has more.
I want to see more girls given the opportunity to grow, more girls to see that their impact is bigger than just themselves and potentially could be amplified. I want more women, young women of color specifically, to feel empowered to be the change makers in their community. And I would love Get Girls Going to be that activator for them.
You just heard from Director of Programming for Get Girls Going, Matilda Patoviu, and caught a glimpse into the inspirational goals and work done by the organization. Davita Harris, a current student grant writing and development intern, was inspired by its creators' passion, strength, and lifetime commitment to reaching out to the next generation of Black women.
Not only is the work they're doing incredible, and I think so inspiring to anyone, but also just like I love working for women who have started their own business and are people who I hope that I can be like in a few years.
The unfair obstacles Black innovators of business face isn't changing at the current moment, but Get Girls Going looks to the future to change, create, and ensure a better world.
So when they come to our program, unlike other programs where they're learning skills that might help them in it further their career, our program helps them kind of expand on their thought and their inner entrepreneur.
The unfair obstacles Black innovators of business face isn't changing at the current moment, but Get Girls Going looks to the future to change, create, and ensure a better world.
Our goal long-term, definitely not just to be putting girls through a 4-week incubator, but creating a community of intelligence and knowledge within the girls that we support.
With all the potential of expanding in the future and coming to a community near you, be on the lookout for these strong, powerful women of Get Girls Going. For the Boston Beat, I'm Drew Ashone.
Drew, thank you so much. We now have Nana Young, the founder and executive director of Get Girls Going, here to speak with us. Before we get into it, before we talk about, all of the components of your program, I want to talk about where you got the idea for Get Girls Going. And, was it based off your experiences in college? Was it based off of, where did this idea come from?
Yeah, it was based off my experiences for sure. I had, when I started college, I went into college thinking I was going to be an engineer. And so I was studying to be a plastics engineer at UMass Lowell. And there was an opportunity for me to take some time off of school and to work at a co-op. And so I decided to do that because I think that it's great to learn all these things in class, but it's really important to kind of apply it and to see what it feels like in real life, right? This is what you really want to do. And so I wanted to do that. And every single day that I went into work for that semester that I took off, it was hard to go into work every day feeling like I was the only Black person, let alone the only woman, right? In these teams that I was working with. And it just dawned on me one day that there has to be a reason why there's a lack of women in these fields, a lack of women in leadership positions at these companies. And what could I do in my community to make sure that girls are in high school right now are kind of getting prepared to get into that space when they graduate, when they go to college, that they're pursuing things that they want to pursue. And then after that they're able to actually lead in these companies, so that there's a level of representation there. And so that's when one day coming back from work, driving home, I was like, I had this idea, and then turned this idea into something real.
Well, it's fantastic. First of all, it's absolutely fantastic. And I think it's having a huge impact. And, you're leading me to my next question, which was, how did you feel as that only Black person? You talk about that a little bit just a moment ago, but, what was the feeling like? And, how did it hurt? Maybe not even hurt, but what were some of the challenges of being the only person of color in that room, or being the only Black person in a meeting, in a conversation, in this corporate world or in this co-op?
Yeah, I think when there is, and not just in the co-op, but I think in spaces where there is a lack of diversity, right? You're only hearing the perspectives that are in the room. And those are the perspectives that are making the decisions, right? And so without kind of another person's voice, without perspective from a woman, from a person of color, from a Black woman, from a Black man, then it's only the white voices in the room that are being heard. And so that was, I think, really, really hard for me because I felt like I couldn't really connect with some of the people I was working with. It seemed like it wasn't just a problem at, this co-op, it was a problem kind of in most spaces. So.
And so going off of that, why is mentorship, we can sit here, I know you have so many answers about this, but why is mentorship so important for these young women in going into work or trying to get their foot into the door of corporate culture and into the business world, really?
Yeah. So there was a study by the Mentor Network, and so they pretty much tested out what what happens when a young person is mentored. And they found that like young people are 130% more likely to assume leadership positions when they grow up, right? So there's a direct correlation between youth being mentored and them being able to lead when they grow up. Same thing for them in turn then wanting to be mentors for other people when they grow up. And the same thing for college, like they're more likely to want to go to college. And so kind of all these reasons are the things that made me want to include mentoring in the program. But more specifically at Get Girls Going, we pay attention to near peer mentoring. So we are not going to match up a high school student with like a 30 or 40-year-old woman, right? They're probably in two different spaces in their lives. A 30 or 40-year-old woman experienced high school a long time ago. And so being able to relate is kind of hard. So what we do is we pair up our high school girls with college age mentors, and kind of that near peer relationship is what makes the relationships in our program strong. It's what makes our girls want to come back to our program. And I think overall, that's how our girls are impacted, because they're able to not just share kind of the things that they're going through and the desires in life, but they're able to connect with their mentors and kind of like a sister type bond, which is really special.
And you know, it's funny, because when I was reading about your program, even just now talking to you and hearing your response to that question, you know, the first thing that comes to my mind is, if you don't get a seat at the table, then you build your own table, and you invite who you want to be at that table there with you. Right. So, you know, how has that quote, you know, that old time saying really affected your work? And how did it drive your work, if it did at all?
Yeah, it's so great that you said that, because it is that very quote and that mindset that made me also create Get Girls Going the way that it's created. Some people kind of look at our organization sideways, because it's a program for Black teen girls, right? And to say that we're creating this space for only this group of people, some people talk about how the program itself is not diverse, right? How can you say that you're you know, creating diversity when you're just creating a space for Black teen girls? But I think what we have to understand is, like, young people are the groups that are, you know, not the dominant. Black people are not the dominant. Women are not the dominant. And so when I wanted to create this program, I wanted to target, you know, Malcolm X says this: the most disrespected person in this country is a Black woman, right? And when we focus on Black women, we don't really look at Black girls. And when we think about, you know, the young kind of the discrimination component added to it, that's what makes kind of our program different. So I think it's that, like, creating a space for specifically Black teen girls to be together, to work with other Black women, and to kind of have a space where they feel safe. And I don't think that in many spaces outside of this that they have that kind of safety net.
Let's talk about your 4-week intensive program, where you're really mentoring these women and giving them the facts that they need to work in this business world and thrive in the business industry. Talk to me about some of the sessions that you put on through Get Girls Going during this 4-week intensive program, and what can young women expect?
So we have girls really come into the program, and we want them to kind of own the program, right? This is their experience to own. They're going to create kind of this experience that they're going to have. And so when they come into the program, they start off with a couple sessions that are revolved around entrepreneurship. So what is entrepreneurship? What is business? How do I create one? What are good examples of businesses? But at Get Girls Going, we specifically focus on social enterprises. And the way we describe or define that to people is it's kind of in the spectrum of, you know, a nonprofit and a for-profit business, but you're really thinking about, how do I create a social impact? So we can you can create a solid product, but how does your product connect to a social problem that's prevalent in your community? So when they come into our 4-week summer incubator, they're having a lot of entrepreneurship classes. They're having a lot of sessions where they're prototyping and brainstorming. They're having a lot of sessions where they're one-on-one with their mentors, working and talking through their solutions. They're getting a lot of PDs from people coming in and talking about different components of building a business, whether it's marketing or building a budget. And so over the course of the 4 weeks, they're meeting lots of people, they're in and out of a lot of different classes, but they're also getting to build kind of their own business, which is awesome because it kind of gives them a project-based approach. And that way they're able to, walk out of the program and say, yeah, I learned all these tools and things, but this is what I created. This is how I applied the things that I learned.
Absolutely. And before, we go and we leave this conversation, I want to know, what is your favorite part about working with these young women? There's so many great things that come out of your work. I know that we could spend the whole show talking about that, but for you, what is the specific thing that just brings you the most joy when talking to these women, helping these women, prepare themselves for their future?
Yeah. For me, I think what's most exciting is finding purpose. So when a girl comes to me and says, hey, Nana, I realize that this is what I want to do. I realize that this is my purpose in life. I think that's the ultimate thing for me. I get teary-eyed, I get, emotional, but I really feel like that is the point, right? The point of our existence, right? For us to live our purpose. And so if I can help a girl find that in any way, and sometimes it's her realizing that the things that she's working on at Get Girls Going isn't her purpose, right? And that's great too. But when they can realize and identify what their purpose is, I think that's what's really special for me.
And so, Nana, thank you so much. And, your work is just so invaluable, so invaluable. And, I hope that it keeps growing, Get Girls Going continuously keeps going. And Nana, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the premiere episode of the Boston Beat today. And Debbie, you may see me at 450 Harrison sometime soon. Now, signing off from the Boston Beat, I'm Wesley Days. Have a good day, everyone.